What if I told you that one of the scariest horror movies ever made was based on a real family-esque nightmare? You've seen the film, you know the jump scare, but the truth behind The Conjuring is far darker, and in many ways, very, very different from what you saw on screen. The Hollywood version is terrifying, but the real story is something else entirely. It's a tale that doesn't have a neat, tidy ending, and that might be the most chilling part of all. So, turn down the lights, and let's uncover the true case files of the Perron family haunting. Released in 2013, The Conjuring, directed by the master of modern horror James Wan, became an instant classic. It follows the famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren as they recalled to help the Perron family, who are being terrorized by a dark presence in their new Rhode Island farmhouse. The movie builds tension with every creaking floorboard and slamming door, leading to a dramatic and terrifying climax. It was marketed as being based on a true story, a detail that made the experience even more frightening for audiences worldwide. But this wasn't just a clever marketing gimmick. The Warrens' case file on the Perron family haunting is one of their most famous, and the events that inspired the film were documented long before Hollywood ever came knocking. The question is, how much of it was real? Let's rewind to 1971. In real life, Roger and Caroline Perron, along with their 5 daughters, moved into a beautiful, albeit rundown, 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. It was their dream home, a place to raise their children in the quiet countryside. But that dream quickly soured. Almost immediately, strange things began to happen. It started small, almost dismissible. Cold spots that would appear and vanish in the middle of a room. The faint smell of rotting flesh that had no source. Then came the whispers in the dark, disembodied voices calling their names when no one was there. Objects would move on, their own brooms would sweep by themselves. Toys would suddenly appear in different rooms, and beds would vibrate violently in the middle of the night. The Perron daughters reported seeing spirits. Some were harmless, like a little boy who would play with their toys, but others were angry and menacing. The family wasn't just living in a house. They felt like they were sharing it with an army of unseen residents, and the longer they stayed, the more hostile these spirits became. The house itself had a dark and disturbing past, something the family was completely unaware of when they bought it. The property, known as the Arnold Estate, had been in the same family for 8 generations, and over the centuries, it had seen more than its fair share of tragedy. Records showed that numerous people had died on the property. There were 2 documented suicides by hanging in the barn. A man was rumored to have been poisoned. Several children drowned in the nearby creek, and others died from various illnesses under mysterious circumstances. It was a place steeped in death and sorrow. The Perron family came to believe that the spirits of those who had died there were still trapped within the walls, unable or unwilling to move on. They weren't just dealing with one ghost. They believed they were living in a house crowded with the dead, and one spirit in particular seemed to be the most powerful and malevolent of them all. The movie introduces the primary antagonist as Bathsheba Sherman, a terrifying witch who sacrificed her child to the devil and cursed anyone who tried to take her land. It's a horrifying backstory that makes for a great movie monster. But who was the real Bathsheba? Bathsheba Sherman was a real woman who lived on the neighboring property in the 1800s. And she did have a dark cloud of suspicion around her. Local legend claimed that an infant in her care died mysteriously, with a coroner finding that a large needle had been impaled at the base of the baby's skull. The townspeople accused her of being a Satanist, but due to a lack of evidence, she was never convicted. However, there is no solid historical proof that she was a witch, that she cursed the land, or that she hung herself from the tree on the Perron property as the film depicts. In fact, historical records show she died of paralysis due to a stroke in her old age. The Perron family, however, was convinced that it was Bathsheba's spirit that was tormenting them. Especially Caroline. The cinematic version of Bathsheba is a powerful fabrication, a terrifying villain created for the screen. The real story is far murkier. Desperate and terrified, the parents eventually contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The famous demonologists agreed to investigate the house. They brought their equipment and their expertise, hoping to cleanse the home of its dark entities. Their investigation culminated in a seance, a detail that both the family and the Warrens have confirmed. It was during this seance that things allegedly took a terrifying turn. Caroline Perron, the mother, reportedly became possessed. Her body contorted. She began speaking in a strange voice, and she was thrown across the room with incredible force. It was a chaotic and violent event that deeply traumatized everyone present, especially the Perron children who were forced to witness it. But here's where the real story takes a sharp turn from the movie. The Warrens believed a full-blown exorcism was necessary to save Caroline and cleanse the house. However, unlike the dramatic movie-ending exorcism performed by Ed Warren, that never happened. In reality, an exorcism is a specific rite that must be approved and performed by the Catholic Church. The Warrens did not have that authority, and the church never sanctioned an official exorcism for Caroline Perron or the house. The seance was the climax of the Warrens' involvement, and it ended badly. Raja Perron, seeing the terrifying effect the event had on his wife and children, became furious. He believed the Warrens had made things 100 times worse. He fought with them and kicked them out of the house, demanding they never return. There was no heroic victory, no final battle where the family was saved. The Warrens left, and the Perron family, financially unable to move, was left to deal with the aftermath. They stayed in that haunted house for nearly 10 more years, living with the entities they believed occupied it, until they could finally afford to leave in 1980. So, what does the Perron family say about the movie? You might think they'd be upset about the creative liberties taken, but in interviews, the Perron daughters, now grown women, have consistently stated that the movie actually had to be toned down. They claimed the real events were far more psychologically terrifying and relentless than what was shown on screen. Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, wrote a series of books titled House of Darkness, House of Light, detailing her family's decade-long ordeal. They insist that the spirits, the fear, and the haunting were all very real. For them, the story didn't end with peace and a quiet drive home. It ended with silence, with the family quietly leaving their nightmare home behind, carrying the emotional and psychological scars with them for the rest of their lives. So, was The Conjuring real? The answer is complicated. Yes, the Perron family existed. The old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, is very real. The family's suffering and terror were undoubtedly genuine experiences that shaped their entire lives. The Warrens' investigation also happened, but the movie took these real, messy, and unresolved events and packaged them into a conventional horror narrative, clear-cut battle between good and evil, with a definitive beginning, middle, and end. The truth is often stranger and scarier than fiction. It's a story of a family tormented for years, a story without a heroic rescue or a neat resolution. And maybe some stories are scarier when you know they never truly end. Would you dare to spend a night in the real Conjuring house? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And for more deep dives into the true stories behind your favorite horror movies, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.